Good to start? All right. Good evening, everyone. Right. So, if you have checked the agenda, the title of this educational session is Your Voice. And while I heard quite a few voices right now, I would still like to hear your voice. Okay? So, very tiny activity to start with. On the count of 3, you shall say one word that pops into your mind. Any word, absolutely any word. It doesn't have to be manifestation, it doesn't have to be voice, but it can be either of those things. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Did I hear everyone? I'm not sure. Let's do that again. The point is, your voice, all of those voices should reach me. Like my voice is hopefully reaching you right now. I really hope I'm not too loud for the mic. Okay? 1, 2, 3, go. If everyone has those ballots out in front of you, ready for some real educational understanding of how the whole session is supposed to be, turn those around. We'll come to the ballots later. Because in my opinion, public speaking and especially table topics starts far before ballots even come into the picture, before a meeting comes into the picture, before a contest comes into the picture. Let's start. Respected President, Toastmaster of the Day, all the Toastmasters and dear guests. I am feeling very pretentious right now because I am here to deliver an educational session. Like I am so much better at this than probably everyone in this room combined. It's not the case. I am a division level speaker, not a division level winner. I am an area level winner, but then, sometimes I get lucky. What I want to really focus on is given in my title. It is your voice. From my perspective, table topics, like any other speech, is a unique opportunity for us to really bring out who we are, what we are made of, what influences us, what philosophy we really believe in, and what creativity resides within us. And for that, the beginning is your word of the day today, self-belief. And it starts from a place that your voice, your opinions, your beliefs, your creativity deserves to be heard. It deserves to be up on this stage. When you convince yourself, the moment you are so sure that when I go up there, I don't want to be pretentious. I don't want to be like anybody else. I don't want to be like the world champion, the district champion of table topic speaking. I want to be myself. The moment you convince yourself of that, that's when you're ready to come up here, take literally any topic from this world and speak about it. Now, can I have a quick round of just an answer to this question? When we speak about table topics, what's the first thing that comes to mind, and rather, what's the first biggest fear or the biggest challenge, the biggest hurdle that everyone has? Anybody?
Sounding dumb in front of.
The risk of sounding dumb, that's a very real one. Blanking out, not really being able to think of anything at all. Correct? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anybody else?
Thinking about the first few seconds, but after that, how should I continue?
Brilliant point. Thinking about having an idea in the first few seconds, but then not being able to follow up and build on it at all. Perfect. Oh, you are worried about the topic even before the topic gets there. That's a very, very real place to begin. You're beginning right there before the contest starts. Very real. I'm loving these answers. Yes, Devyani.
I think not understanding the topic.
Not-
Understanding at all.
Oh, not understanding the topic at all. That has happened a few times. Yes. Not with me. I'm smart. Okay. So, starting with the first and one of the most important things, like he said, starting that what will the topic be? Is it going to be a proverb? Is it going to be a give us an anecdote kind of topic? Will it be a tell us your philosophy and your opinion about this topic? Or is it just going to be a single word? Home, speak. Mom, Dad, 2 BHK, just around the corner. What do I talk about when I talk about home? Like I said, it all starts with your voice, and where it all starts is who you are. And when we are very confident about where we come from, what we believe in, I think the content really naturally flows through us. Now, the idea behind understanding what the topic is and understanding how to start, what to build upon, and how to really deliver is all based on that exact thing. The moment you hear a topic, a midnight drive, what pops into your head the first time? Consider that your topic. Consider that your content for that speech. Now, there are 2 levels to this. If you are just starting out, if you are not yet at a point where you can absolutely, grasp the topic in a matter of a few seconds, think of multiple scenarios, pick the one that you find the most appropriate for this setting, and then build on top of that. If you are not at that level, you start at the very beginning. Something pops into your head, a midnight car drive. What pops into your head? For Soham, it's that one car drive that he had with his friends, which was really fun. They went to Nurstop, they had a cold coffee. For somebody else, it could be that midnight drive that they went with their boyfriend or their girlfriend. For somebody else, it could be the wishful thinking, yaar, I want to go on a midnight drive. I want to listen to this kind of music. I want to feel that cold air. The moment you think of that first thing, latch onto it. You don't need to move past it. You don't need to question if this is good enough, if this is witty enough. Wittiness, creativity, all are level 2, level 3 things. And I'm not talking educational levels here. I'm talking table topics levels. I'm talking proficiency levels. What you need, and ask anybody who has been a table topics judge, table topics contest judge, ask anybody, what we are looking for is not the most creative table topic, it's the most put together table topic, the one that feels complete, that is clear in what the contestant has to say, which begins somewhere, has some body to it, and then it circles back to where it began. It has some kind of, sometimes a message, sometimes just a plain old joke, like sometimes I have done. It needs to be complete, and a thought can be complete when it's coming from a very honest and unpretentious place. When you think of something instinctively, you think of that instinctively because it's within you. It's coming from a very natural place, and that exact instinct is what you need to tap into in order to really find that topic which you can really flow with. If I'm going to talk about trying to be pretentious and trying to be witty, I might stumble. My thoughts might be out of order. I might struggle with putting everything together and then finding the time to, it's yellow card, I need to find a conclusion, but I'm not yet done with my body. That won't happen if you have a natural sort of flow to your conversation, to your speech. So, starting off, when it comes to the content selection, as it may be, for the starting point, level 1, think instinct. Find what comes to your mind first, and then instead of building on it, just go with the flow. See where it takes you. It might take a few tries, but then that's what our daily meetings are about, right? If you are more proficient, when you get to that level 2 or level 3, you can start getting creative. You can start getting witty. You can interpret the topic in a different way than probably the other contestants will. Somebody says midnight drive, and instead of thinking my midnight drive, you can create a fictional story. Instead of putting the midnight drive in a positive connotation of, oh, I had such a great time, you can find an anecdote or create an anecdote which says, I was traveling from Belgaum to Satara and my bus broke down and we were stranded on the highway for 4 hours, and eventually I had to get on a truck and get back home, and that was my midnight drive. Unique, yes. Creative, also yes, if it was fictional. But then can you approach it can you access it immediately at level 1? Not really. So go with your instinct and go with that flow. Now, coming to the actual structure of the speech. Like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on this. Like I said, it has to have an opening, a body and a conclusion. It should feel like a complete story. If I were to ask you, Soham, how was your day today?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. While those are just 2 words, thank you for absolutely just crashing my plane right there. But while those are 2 words, they paint a complete picture. That's the crux of what you need to know. It was a pretty good day. If I were to ask you that how was your day, tell me about your day a little more in detail, you would begin, I went to office in the morning, I had a nice breakfast, I went to office, I napped for 15 minutes at my desk because the lunch I had was really heavy, and then in the evening I had to rush through traffic, and now I'm here. It began somewhere, it ended where it needs to. That kind of flow is what you need, and that could come at the cost of him leaving out the details of what he had for lunch and what kind of work came across his desk today and what his boss said to him in the afternoon meeting. All of those things could be left out because before his time runs out, he needs to reach here. He needs to tell me about the traffic that he ran into on his way here. So that is the kind of structure that the speech needs to have, and that's what the judges also look for. And what we have been talking about so far, if you turn around your agenda and look at the judges' ballots, you will see that speech development, like I just spoke about, has to come with a flow, and if it's instinctual, if it's natural, you will find it. I have this experience, personal experience, that when I go with my instinct and start speaking about whatever it is that I embarked upon when the topic was told, by the middle of the speech at least, I have a semblance of an idea of how I want to end the speech, or rather, why I started with this particular speech in itself. Why did I start telling you about this one night drive that I went on? It was with friends. Why did I start telling you that? Because I want to tell you that I felt happy, that I felt like I belonged with my friends, that I felt like I could do something that was outside the bounds of my usual routine, right? So trust the flow to really bring your own thoughts to you. And it's again a thing of practice to try and get to that point where your mind speaks to you before you have to speak to the audience. So by the time you are getting into your body, you have a semblance of an idea of this is where I want to end. This is what I want the audience to take away from this speech. So speech development, that is what I will suggest in that area. With a footnote saying that, like I said, it's okay to leave out lunch details, it's okay to leave out meeting details, but it's not okay to forget that you drove here. Which is to say, a conclusion and a wrapping up of what you were speaking about is perhaps one of the most important things. I have seen speeches start stumbling because we are not ready with our thread of thought yet. We don't find it immediately. But once we do, and towards the end, if you have taken the audience on a bit of an arc of your own, that I started stumbling, but as I went ahead, I got more and more clarity, and towards the end, I am so sure of what I want to say. That conclusion is perhaps the biggest impact that you leave on the judges and on the audience in general. So I will really try and drive this point home. Conclusion is mandatory. You know how we say in evaluation that a summary is really required? Similar to that in the table topics, a conclusion is absolutely mandatory. Now coming to the effectiveness part. It's about doing not doing what I sometimes tend to do in my conversations and in my speeches. Meandering. I started telling you about my night drive, but then I suddenly started telling you about my car. I told you about how we got to nurse stop and that cold coffee, but I also started talking about how I saw another cool car on the way there, and instead of talking to my friends, that's not pertinent to the speech. You have got 2 to 3 minutes. Have you? You have got 1 to 2 minutes. You have got barely any time to speak. You can't be talking about the fun guy that you saw on the street. You need to get to nurse stop. You need to have that cold coffee with your friends. You need to tell me, oh wow, that was such a great experience. Leave out the tiny details maybe. Focus on where you want to go and how you want to go there. The portion which deals with logic, directness, enthusiasm, achievement of purpose, it's about taking that speech title and then doing it justice from your point of view. And let me tell you this, Devayani, specifically about not understanding what the topic could be, not understanding what they want to hear. They don't want to hear anything specific, because any topic that you get, even a proverb that you get, can be interpreted in different ways, and rather interpreting it in a different way than your other contestants could be a way of getting your judges' attention. That could be your way of standing out. Taking a proverb like where there is a will, there is a way. Everyone's talking about, oh, how I have a vision of achieving this and I will have the most drive in my mind. Somebody starts talking about the will that their grandfather left them. Did the judges see that coming? No. Did the other contestants or the audience see it coming? No. Is that an original thought? Yes. Is it creative? Yes. Does it get you brownie points outside of these ballots? Yes. Probably it does. And that is what the power of interpretation is. Make it subjective to you. The point that you thought of a joke when you heard the title, you heard a serious title and you thought of a joke, is very you. And when that joke plays out as a speech, that's a speech that is yours, that's your voice, and how you present it is your method, and that becomes your speech, and your speech wins the contest, right? A speech does not win a contest, not even the speech wins the contest, your speech wins the contest. So coming back to the second part of the ballot, that is, if you see, the structure and what you talk about constitutes the biggest part of the ballot, biggest part of the points, biggest part of how you go on to score great points. So before you start worrying about whether or not I'm going to address the audience here, and whether or not I'm going to address the audience here, and whether or not I'm going to use expansive hand gestures and voice control, you have to think about what you're going to talk about. And circling back to where I started, you have to believe that your voice deserves to be heard, that your opinion matters, that your creativity matters, that your joke is funny. And you will explain to the audience how funny it is. If they don't get it, their fault. Alright? Moving down to the physical voice part of the ballot, which is the delivery. Again, there are two ways of looking at this. I personally am of the opinion that we should not do something which is outside of our natural ability. Is that a raised hand? No. Okay. Alright. We should not do something that is outside of our natural ability. So for example, if I am somebody who likes to stay rooted in one spot and use a moderate amount of hand gestures, I should not be doing something which is unnaturally very expansive on stage or very loud in expression. But at the same time, if I am somebody who is very expressive in every way possible, I am an animated individual, and just because Toastmasters thinks or somebody thinks, or in some way there is this opinion that you should be more collected and calm on stage, you should not be boxing yourself into that. So from my opinion, physical and voice, both of these delivery aspects come naturally, and they come aligned to what you are talking about. If you stick to the natural content, if you stick to the flow that's coming to you naturally, if you're telling something funny, you will tell it in a funny way. If you're telling something, speaking of something serious, you will drop your voice. You will probably stay in a monotone. You might not use a lot of hand gestures. So don't feel like you have to be something, that you have to do something. The content drives the delivery, always. And what I mean by that is just try and identify who you are on stage as an orator, as a performer, and let that drive your performance, your speech, your presence. And then coming to the language part, which is appropriateness and correctness. This is now a very contextual place to be, because not everyone is as well versed in English and as fluent in English as somebody else. Not everyone has been consuming enough content and has paid enough attention in grammar class to have impeccable grammar. Who pays attention in grammar class, to be honest? Never mind, I digress. The language part has to come on its own. And I will circle back to that personal, your voice thing again. If you are not trying to be pretentious, if you are not out of your depth with your content and with your delivery, you end up not being out of your depth with your language. If the content is coming easily, so does the delivery of it and so does the language of it. If I am talking about a random day out on the street, I am not using academically heavy words. I am not using rich English which would only befit an Oxford professional. I am talking about my day. I am using words like loiter. Because when I felt like I was roaming around, I did not feel like I was roaming around. I felt like I was loitering. It was pointless. It was absolutely meaningless, and hence I was loitering. But if I was walking in a particular direction, if I was getting late for this meeting, I was pacing. I was striding towards this meeting. The content, the feeling, the energy, the intent will drive that language. So let that content drive that language as well, and be as fluent by being as natural as you can. You don't need to reach for larger words, and the proof is that language takes up 15 marks. Trying to reach for larger words, trying to reach for creative sentences, active voice, passive voice, circling around, trying to make puns, trying to find alliterations and triads, all of that might get you stumbling over your content, might consume a few more seconds, which is then messing with your time calculations. All of that for what? 2 marks extra out of those 15? Wouldn't you rather just tell a simple story in the language that you are comfortable with, so that you never stutter? And while the judges don't technically keep any kind of R counter, like Toastmaster Devayani is noting my R's since the start of the speech, they will notice those R's. They will notice you stumbling. And when the stumbling is noticed, it's again an impact which does not get captured in this sheet. It's an impact that the judges are thinking, he's not on top of his game. He's not cool with this. He's not comfortable here. The point is that everyone in the audience, including the judges, should think that he's at home. She is born to be a speaker. What they are talking about is coming from such a sincere and honest place within themselves that even if they were speaking to a wall, they would speak the same way. Even if they were speaking to an audience of 1,000, they would speak the same way. The moment that you have the judges feeling like that, thinking that, is when you convince them that I got this, right? So coming to the actual language part of it, the advice that I would have, and something that I follow myself, is let it come to you naturally. How you can aid it is by reading more, by consuming more content, listening to more people speak English, coming here and listening to more people give speeches, and adapting and really integrating into your language and your vocabulary what feels natural, and that can change over time. And coming to one of the most important things is something that me and one member of your club really struggled with. It's a sorry fact that Toastmaster Chinmay isn't here to back me up, but I will tell you a fun fact. Me and Toastmaster Chinmay, we both hail from the same company. We joined Toastmasters around the same time. In fact, we participated in the contest for non-Toastmasters that our company runs in order to introduce people to Toastmasters. It's an impromptu speaking contest, and the first time that we participated in that, both of us went overboard. We had decent speeches. We just went over time. And it has been a struggle for me and Chinmay to stay within time limits in table topics, in prepared speeches, in evaluations. So, all of this being natural, the moment you see this card, you wrap up. You run like your mom is going to really hand it to you if you don't get home in time. You know how you get out of friends' engagements? Guys, I really need to leave. Yeah, घर पे खाना बना के रखा है. There's food at home. My mom will really kill me if I don't eat. This is the third day in a row that I'm going home after 9 p.m. This is too much. I'm far too young for this. I'm not allowed. And the speed at which you can wrap up a social engagement, get on your vehicle and run towards home is the speed at which you should run when you see this yellow card. Wherever in your body you were, you close it. The details that you leave out are the details that the audience and the judges never had. You don't get evaluated for what you missed out because they don't know what you missed out. So just wrap it up where you can and run for your life and get to that conclusion. Tell everyone why did you give this speech and how did it make you feel and how they should feel about it. Wrap it up. Keep an eye on that yellow card. By the time you see the green card, you should be deep into your body, ready to wrap it up, getting to the point. By the yellow card, you should be thinking of what your conclusion is if you haven't thought already, and you should be wrapping your body up and moving into the conclusion. And once you see the red card, if you have that bandwidth left for creativity, if you have left anything in that conclusion for being witty, being punny, being funny, being creative, that's the point where you make that one landing statement, that one landing joke, that one going back to the topic statement which really ties your speech together. And that is when you finish your speech at least 10 to 15 seconds shy of the final time, which is 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Because when you aim at 215, aim for 215, you probably end at 225. But 225 is a safe place. If you feel that in your speeches in the club that you are getting too close to 230, aim at finishing at 2. You'll pull it back to 215. Keep these things in your head, like, you know how we know that after you see the red card you have 30 seconds to wrap up? Refactor that in your mind. When you see the red card, you have 15 seconds to wrap up immediately. That is playing safe, because in contests even a 231 will get you out. So pay attention to the time and don't be like me and Toastmaster Chinmay. I mean, he is good now, I still go over time sometimes. So in summary, I think I've covered the ballot, and I would like to reiterate the same thing again. It's about being original, it's about being sincere, it's about the content coming from a core within your heart and letting that content take over, let that content and that self of you take control and drive the delivery and the language as well. I shall conclude this session for now, the formal part of it. Where are we? At 30 minutes? Okay, so we can just take a few questions if there are any, else 35 is my cap and we shall conclude that session.
What is the difference between giving a table talk during a meeting and during a contest?
In a contest, I think one of the only things that you are doing is a difference between studying to gain knowledge versus studying for an exam. You are thinking from a contest point of view. You are thinking of things like, I need to find a unique interpretation of the topic than the other contestants in trying to stand out. Sometimes it can be they give you a proverb and you disagree. Everyone else is going to say, yeah, that's true, and this is why it's true, and you are the only one who says, no, that's not true. Something like that. From a contest point of view, I feel like you have a little more constraints in your mind because you are considering the ballot. But again, my personal opinion and my personal approach is that I'm here to have fun. I'm here to tell everyone what I think and who I am, and I let that express through my speech, whether it be a table topic, whether it be an educational session, or whether it be a contest topic.
What if someone struggles with reaching one minute? Like I speak very fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to when in the table topic there's a lack of content plus speech speed. So then I struggle to reach 1 minute.
Do you think your lack of content comes from you not having content, or you feeling that some extra content would be unnecessary, or having extra content would basically be chewing somebody's ear?
10 seconds is all I can come up with, but later I don't think which one is to add.
I had this friend who did this very amusing but sometimes annoying thing. If I asked you a question, she would reiterate that question in different ways. Soham, have you had dinner? Have you had dinner, Soham? And while things happen differently in Marathi, it can literally be like, dinner, have you had, Soham? Soham, have you had dinner? Stuff like that. What I mean by that is you can try and, now this is a bit of an intellectual exercise. Whatever you spoke about, you can try looking at it from different angles. You could try debating it with yourself. So, for example, if you started saying that this is what happened and this is how I felt, if you think you are not reaching that time goal, you can start talking about how you think the other person felt. How you think objectively, if somebody else looked at it, how it would feel or how it would appear. The point is to try and be a more elaborate storyteller, and stories can be found in different ways. They can be found in depth, but they can be found also in different perspectives. So you can go too much in detail about whatever you are speaking about, which is to say, if the journey from morning to this meeting is taking 50 seconds, then tell us about what you had for lunch. Tell us about how the friends hangout was. Tell us about this one pathetic joke that this friends told and nobody laughed. Add things to your speech which make it more wholesome, which make it more hearty. Think of you making Maggie, thinking this is not going to cut it, instead cracking an egg and making it a anda Maggie. Something like that. Anybody else?
What about the structure? There is standard answer intro body.
Mm-hmm.
But doing that structure in that such a short time, how there is any methodology that you follow, or there is something like you go impromptu in that too?
Well, technically yes, impromptu in that too. But from a structure point of view, I think I follow this one thing where the opening and the conclusion can be very short, punchy things. Think of advertisements. They don't get to advertise with a paragraph. They have to give you just 2 lines and get you hooked onto the product, and they have to really drive home what the product means. So when you talk about opening, you can just set the context for your body. You can just say something witty or say something which means I heard the topic and this is what it makes me think of, and then jump into your body. It has, if you keep the opening and the conclusion punchy, you have a lot of time for your body. And the opening can be sometimes as simple as just how you transition from taking the topic into speaking and speaking about it. Yeah. Do I have time left? No? Okay. So I think that's my time. I will be here throughout the meeting. I'll hang around after a little while as well. And I think this can be something that you can discuss within yourselves as well. This is my one perspective that I bring to this meeting, and I hope you discuss, and if there are any more questions, I'll be happy to take them after the meeting. Thank you for having me, thank you for giving me the opportunity, and thank you for listening so intently. That's my time, and I will hand it back to our Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Ayush.